More than 1,000 years ago, seafarers from Scandinavia crossed some of the most dangerous waters on Earth in open wooden boats. They reached Iceland, Greenland, and even the shores of North America, centuries before Columbus was born. They traded from the rivers of Russia to the markets of Baghdad, and they left behind objects that, even today, make historians and scientists stop and wonder how they managed it. Some of these artifacts contain technology that seems ahead of its time. Others hint at knowledge that was lost and had to be rediscovered much later. Today, we're looking at Viking artifacts and objects that still leave experts puzzled, impressed, or arguing with each other. Let's start with the most famous one. Number 1, the Ulfberht swords. Scattered across museums and private collections in Northern Europe are around 170 medieval swords that all share one strange feature. Inlaid into the blade, in iron letters, is the same name, Plasvarslef Bergtiplas. These weapons were made roughly between 800 and 1000 AD, right in the heart of the Viking Age. And for a long time, nobody could figure out why some of them were so much better than anything else being produced in Europe at the time. Here's the issue. Most swords of that era were made using a technique called pattern welding, twisting together strips of softer iron and harder steel. These blades looked beautiful, but they could be brittle and prone to bending or breaking in battle. The genuine Ulfberht swords were different. They were made from high-carbon crucible steel, with a carbon content around 3 times higher than typical swords of the period. That made them stronger, sharper, lighter, and far more flexible. A genuine Ulfberht could bend against a shield and spring back instead of snapping. In terms of metallurgy, this was a level of quality that most of Europe would not reach again for centuries, not until the industrial furnaces of a much later age. So how did Viking Age smiths get steel this good? That's the part that still fascinates researchers. To produce crucible steel, you need to heat iron to extremely high temperatures to fully melt it and burn off the impurities, temperatures that ordinary European furnaces of the time generally could not reach. The leading explanation is that the Vikings weren't necessarily making this steel themselves. They were legendary traders as well as raiders, and they ran trade routes deep into the east, along the great rivers of Russia toward the Caspian Sea. Crucible steel of this kind was being produced in parts of Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent, and it's widely believed that raw ingots of high-quality steel traveled these routes into Viking hands. And here's a detail that supports the mystery. When the Volga trade route declined around the 11th century, the supply seems to have dried up, and Ulfberht quality blades faded out. There's even a twist. Many surviving Ulfberht swords are fakes, contemporary counterfeits made from inferior steel by people cashing in on the reputation of the name. It may have been one of the first luxury brands in European history, complete with knockoffs. Number 2, the Viking Sunstone. The medieval Icelandic sagas mention a mysterious object called a solarstein, or sunstone, that Norse navigators supposedly used to find the position of the sun even when it was hidden behind clouds or fog. For a long time, this was treated as pure legend. The Vikings crossed vast stretches of the North Atlantic without magnetic compasses, without maps, and without any of the navigational instruments we take for granted, in a region famous for its overcast skies and long, dim twilights. How did they consistently find their way? The sagas said the sunstone, but nobody knew what a sunstone actually was. In 1967, a Danish archaeologist named Thorkild Ramskau proposed an idea. He suggested the sunstone might be a real, natural crystal, specifically a clear form of calcite called Icelandspar, which is common in Iceland and parts of Scandinavia. This crystal has a fascinating optical property called birefringence. Light passing through it is split in two, and because the crystal responds to polarized light, you can use it to detect the direction of polarization in the sky. Even when the sun is hidden by clouds or has dipped just below the horizon, The sky's light is still polarized in a pattern that points back toward the sun. In principle, a navigator holding up such a crystal and rotating it, watching for the point where the two images balance in brightness, could pinpoint the sun's position with surprising accuracy. Researchers led by physicist Guy Ropars at the University of Rennes in France put this to the test, and their experiments suggested that such a crystal could indeed locate the suns to within a degree or so, even under difficult conditions. And there's a tantalizing piece of physical evidence. A calcite crystal was found aboard an Elizabethan ship that sank in 1592, suggesting that this kind of optical navigation aid might have remained useful even after the magnetic compass arrived, especially since the iron cannons on a ship could throw a compass off by a wide margin. Still, the theory isn't fully settled. Archaeologists have not yet found a confirmed sunstone in a Viking shipwreck, and some experts point out that the technique only works under certain sky conditions. So the sunstone remains a beautiful, plausible, but not entirely proven piece of the Viking puzzle. Number 3. The Oseberg ship and its burial. In 1904, near Oseberg in Norway, archaeologists excavated one of the most spectacular finds in Viking archaeology, a nearly complete wooden longship that had been buried around 834 AD as part of an elaborate grave. The ship itself is a marvel, an elegant oak vessel with a beautifully carved, spiraling prow, showing just how skilled Viking shipbuilders were. But what makes it so remarkable is everything that came with it. Inside the burial were the remains of 2 women, along with an astonishing collection of grave goods, sleds, a wooden cart, tapestries, tools, and richly decorated objects, many preserved by the waterlogged clay soil. The mystery here isn't so much how it was made, but who these women were and what the burial meant. One of them was older, one younger, and their exact identities and the relationship between them are still debated. Was one a queen or a priestess? Was the other a servant, a companion, or an equal? Was one buried to accompany the other? The sheer wealth and care poured into the burial tells us these were people of enormous importance, and the ship burial reflects deep beliefs about death and the journey to whatever came next. But the specific story, the names, the roles, the reasons, was never written down in a way that survived. So we're left reconstructing it from the objects alone. Number 4. The Viking longship itself. It's worth pausing on the ships as a piece of technology because they were central to everything the Vikings accomplished. The longship was a genuine engineering achievement. It was built using a technique called clinker construction, where overlapping planks are fastened together to form a hull that is both strong and remarkably flexible. That flexibility mattered. The hull could flex and twist with the waves rather than fighting them, which helped it survive rough, open ocean crossings. At the same time, these ships had a shallow draft, meaning they didn't sit deep in the water. That let them sail across open seas and then row right up rivers and onto beaches, giving Viking raiders and traders access to places other ships simply couldn't reach. They were also fast, driven by a large square sail and by rows of oarsmen when the wind failed. This combination of speed, seaworthiness, and versatility is what allowed the Vikings to cross the North Atlantic and reach North America around the year 1000, a feat confirmed by the archaeological site at Lonceau Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. Building a vessel capable of all that, without modern tools, blueprints, or materials, using hand-selected timber, iron rivets, and generations of accumulated craft knowledge, was an extraordinary accomplishment. Now for the supporting cast. These are a bit shorter, but no less intriguing. Viking runestones. Across Scandinavia stand thousands of stones carved with runic inscriptions, the angular alphabet the Norse used for writing. Many commemorate the dead, record journeys, or proclaim deeds, sometimes in remarkably personal language. While scholars can read most runic inscriptions today, some remain difficult to interpret, and a few contain passages whose full meaning is still debated. Each stone is a small, direct message from a person who lived over 1,000 years ago. Thor's hammer amulets. Archaeologists have found many small pendants shaped like a hammer, widely understood to represent Mjolnir, the hammer of the god Thor. People apparently wore them for protection and as a sign of faith. What's especially interesting is that these amulets appear during the same period the Norse world was gradually converting to Christianity, and some finds suggest a fascinating overlap. Molds that could cast both Thor's hammers and Christian crosses, hinting at a time when old and new beliefs existed side by side. Viking board game pieces. Excavations have turned up sets of gaming pieces used for a strategy game known as Einafatafell, sometimes called the King's Table. It was a game of unequal sides, where one player defended a king trying to escape, while the other tried to surround and capture him. The game was clearly important in Norse culture, appearing in graves alongside weapons and valuables. But because the full rules were never written down in complete form, exactly how it was played has had to be pieced together and reconstructed by researchers. And finally, the coins and silver hoards. All across the Viking world, people have dug up buried hoards of silver, coins, jewelry, ingots, and hack silver, which are chopped up fragments of larger objects used by weight as currency. What makes these hoards remarkable is where the coins come from. A single Viking hoard can contain silver from far-flung places, including coins minted in the Islamic world thousands of miles away. These buried treasures are hard evidence of just how vast the Viking trade network was, stretching from the North Atlantic all the way to the Middle East. And they raise their own quiet question: why were they buried and never reclaimed? In many cases, the people who hid them never came back. So there you have it. Viking artifacts that our ancestors created over 1,000 years ago that still impress, puzzle, or divide the experts who study them. The Ulfbert swords carried steel that Europe wouldn't match again for centuries. The sunstone may have guided ships across a fog-bound ocean using nothing but a crystal and the polarized light of the sky. Their longships crossed to a new continent, and their buried silver connects a cold northern sea to the markets of distant empires. It makes you wonder how much skill and knowledge lived in the hands of people who left almost nothing written behind. The Vikings are often remembered as raiders, but the objects they left tell a richer story of traders, explorers, craftsmen, and navigators who understood their world far better than we sometimes give them credit for. And maybe that's the real lesson buried in the soil of Scandinavia, that the people we imagine as simple were, in their own way, quietly brilliant, and that some of what they knew we are still working to fully understand.